Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Landing grew up in Sussex, is the founder of Best Agent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So, Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have the offers accepted if you're not viewing. Just be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class if you've not been watching my videos. I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff, guys. Evening, Alex.
Hello, Charlie. How's you doing?
Not too bad. You all right?
Yeah, well, thanks.
That's another late night. Just you and me having a quiet chat.
I see you've got tea.
I have got tea. I had my water in the earlier live stream this evening, and now I've got a nice hot cup of tea that Amory just made me.
Are you telling me Guns N' Roses took it out of you this badly?
Well, we had 3 whole nights away from the children pretending not to be parents, and we're still working off the hangover slightly, to be honest. Anyway, by the way, speaking of drinking, what are you drinking? I just heard, is that wine?
It could be wine. It could be a Rioja.
I would like to invite anybody who's ever wanted to buy Alex a drink. Now's your chance. On screen is a link where you can, it says buy me a coffee, but I guarantee you Alex won't spend it on coffee. The link is also below in the description. And Alex, all of Alex's contributions to this channel are of his own free will and good nature and generous, charitable kindness. He gets nothing from me other than a pain in the ass. So please thank Alex, buy him a drink or a coffee or whatever you want to. buymeacoffee.com/AlexGround O. It's not a 0. I think that's an uppercase O. The link is below. And I know Alex will be very grateful. And I'd be very grateful because I'd feel slightly less guilty about exploiting his time like I do.
Thank you very much, Charlie. It's a pleasure.
I hope that gets you some nice vino. Right. Now, there are a few things as confusing as house prices.
Oh, God, tell me about it.
And for all of our new viewers, welcome to all the new viewers, by the way. The biggest confusion, the single biggest confusion in all the discussions about house prices is caused by timing. Timing is the most confusing thing of all. Asking prices are in advance of a transaction being agreed. Land registry actual prices are many months after a price was agreed.
Yeah.
And somewhere in the middle is what's actually happening at the coalface of the market. Alex says don't use the phrase coalface, but what else shall I don't have he's not made a suggestion of alternative, so it's coalface until I get a better alternative. What I mean by that is the prices being agreed in estate agents' offices today between buyers and sellers. That's what I'm referring to as at the coalface of deals. There is no data for coalface transactions. I hope to change that with the Best Agent All Homes Index, which is taking shape gradually, slowly but surely. I'm actually going to get it up. That's the Best Agent. Shut up.
3 days away without kids, huh? Know what's on your mind.
I want to have it there ready to talk about. But so what we're about to, the headlines you're going to see tomorrow morning when the Land Registry reports on May house prices, let's be very, very clear. They are going to be reporting on a very small sample, around about 8,000 to be approximately precise, if that's not an oxymoron, of the transactions that were reported as completing in May. And in fact, the exact phrase they use is the deed date, right? the legal date on which the completion of the transaction was executed, okay, is what's registered at the land registry. And those transactions that were recorded in May, and by the way, we have the precise date of each transaction is in the data set that Alex has used to bring you this evening's news. This is the news before the news, by the way, because tomorrow you'll get the news, but tonight's the actual news.
There's no point waiting for the real news.
No, and actually the news, for anyone who could be asked to find it, the data's been there for a week, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But I want to be very, very clear. This makes me laugh because I just know that Russell Quirk is going to go, "Hey, Charlie, house prices are up. See?
I'm still going to win so much money from him in October. But just, yeah, Russell, you'll just get that laughy face.
Oh God, I can't bear it. Anyway, so what you're going to see tomorrow in the land registry reflects what we saw in the Halifax's house price index around about December, January, February, because May. So by the way, the average time between agreement of a price and transaction completion is about 5 months. Some of them are 3 months, some of them are 7 months. On average, 5 months. So this is reporting some transactions that were initiated. In other words, they were agreed December, January, February time. Okay. So, and there are a number of different reasons that can make an average price go up. It doesn't mean that people's houses are increasing in value. It means that the average transaction value of those houses that are selling is higher. So this could be caused by a number of things that we're about to go into. So roughly speaking, and I'll hand over to Alex in a minute. By the way, I have linked to the spreadsheet with all the data in it in the description below here. Okay. If you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, you can find it. If you're on Twitter, I'll have to put the link there separately for you, but it is there.
You mean just for those sad buggers who are excited to look at a couple of 100,000 lines of land registry price paid data?
Yes, exactly. And by the way, you cannot look at this data and say, see, house prices are up. That is not a correct statement. Any more than you could say the same if they were down.
Nope.
Okay. It's the point is that it doesn't, what they report tomorrow, whatever it says, right? Whatever the exact figure they come out with says, has no bearing on the prices being agreed at the coalface today. That is the point, right? Everybody knows there's a delay in land registry prices, so in the reporting of actual house prices. So just do not be confused when you see headlines saying house prices, land registry confirms house prices are going up. Because if you didn't understand how house prices are constructed and reported, it would blow your mind. Like, what? I thought there was I thought house prices are falling. What do they mean they're going up? It's enough to do your head in. So but without further ado, let's get the prices up on here because it's interesting to look at, right? This is interesting to look at.
Yeah, so I've taken from January through till May. So we've got 5 months worth of data there. And if you just look at the graphs to begin with, what you can see is 2 lines for each graph. They're split by type of property. So detached, semi-detached, terraced, and flat. Those are the 4 property types used by the land registry. They have another category, which is other, but other contains hotels, farmland, pubs, not residential properties. So you have the 4 types, which are then combined into the all property graph at the bottom. Each graph has 2 lines. The blue line is the average price for all of the properties, and the orange line is the median price for those properties. Now, as you can see, the median price is always well below the average. Now, what that means is that you have a skewed graph. By that, what I mean is you don't have a central price and the same number of properties that are lower and the same number that are higher. What you have, looking at the skew, is a large lump of properties that are roughly the same price. They range very little. Let's say their midpoint is 300,000 and they might go up to 400 and down to 200. However, you then have those unusual properties that skew the number all the way over to the right, where a flat of only 100 square meters in London could be worth £10 million. And that is where you get that separation between the median and the average. So we expect to see that separation. We expect it to remain fairly consistent, because if that separation becomes larger, it suggests that there are more higher value properties coming onto the market. And if it gets lower, it suggests that more of the properties coming onto the market are the median price, the normal sort of range that you might look at, not the unusual ones all the way off to the right-hand side of a distribution graph.
Right. Thank you. Now let's just let people know. So this is data downloaded directly from the government website. Yes.
Yeah.
Every individual transaction down to the actual address, isn't it? They've listed
Yes.
every single one. Now, there are, am I correct in saying, only 8,063 transactions included in this number?
For May, yes. For April,
May.
you can see that bottom set of figures,
Yeah.
rows 38 to 43.
Yeah.
That is all property types. And as you can see, they're beginning to become more accurate for January, February, and March, around the 40,000 mark, although that number is still going to increase, probably to somewhere between 55 and 60,000. So this shows you how long Land Registry are taking to update information.
So exactly, this is a really important point, guys. Understand how small this sample size is, okay? For January, they've now updated a total of 42,000, February 41, March 45, April is only 27. So that, like, they're clearly really, this gives you an idea of how much. So, in May, it's only 8,000, but in April, it's 27,000. This does not mean that there were only 8,000 transactions in May. It means that they've only reported on 8,000. They've only processed 8,000 of them into their system.
And that's now normal. Last month's data, there were only 8,500 in April.
Right. So that's first thing is to understand it's a small data sample. Normally there are 85,000 transactions in a month in a normal market. So you're talking about a 10%, maybe with the lower transaction volumes, 15% of a sample. Now, the next thing is the average prices we've got there. And let me just highlight them on here for everybody. This is where the jaws are going to drop slightly. It was 357 in January, dropped quite a long way to 340 in February, dropped to 335 in March, up again in April to 346, and up again in May.
This shouldn't be a surprise. This is basically,
and it isn't to us, but it will be to people who don't like study this data. So this is where it's important for us to explain it. It does not mean, this is the most important thing, it does not mean that in May people were paying higher prices for houses, does it?
No. Well, the first thing to do is look at the median price, and you'll see that actually the January and May prices are the same with the dip in the middle.
Yeah.
And if you were to look at the Halifax index, for instance, and take 2 to 3 months off for the length of time it takes from Halifax to do their mortgage approval, and then their purchase through until the Land Registry to look at it, that's exactly what we would have expected. There was a rise in the Halifax house price index in January, February, and March.
Yeah. So, and guys, remember, right? Just gonna just do this and see what that does. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I want you to remember that we are now in July 2023. These figures are just beginning to report a very small sample of what was completed in May 2023, 2 months ago, which is referring to transactions about 5 months before that. So we are 7 months, at least 7 months from when these deals were agreed on average. Okay. Now, I thought it'd be really interesting to have a quick look at the difference between the property types, right? Because the one that stands out there is the flat, right? The flat's going whoop. Now, one theory, and without going through line by line and tracking everything in this, which no one's got time to do, not even Alex, this would suggest to me, it confirms a lot of reporting that we were getting from agents, which is there is downsizing happening. A lot of more financially literate and forward-thinking people who saw the writing on the wall for interest rates because of what was happening with inflation and could tell what was going to happen, have got out of their bigger houses and downsized sooner rather than later, quite wisely, which would explain why there was an apparent lot of demand for smaller properties and a lot of cash buyers buying them.
Yeah. Yeah, the percentage of cash buyers, which is whole separate, we haven't got that data to present here.
No.
I've done the analysis separately. The percentage of cash buyers in the market has increased markedly over the last 5-6 months,
Yeah.
which, as you say, speaks to downsizers offloading their big houses and moving to somewhere smaller.
Yeah. So interesting stuff. Anyway, so what do we think? That number, the 354,000, is the average transaction price in May, which is up by £8,000 roughly on April, which is about a 2.25% increase, wasn't it?
Correct.
What do you think they're going to report? Because what you're saying is the actual Land Registry house price index has some funky manipulation.
Yeah, they work with the ONS. First of all, they seasonally adjust all these numbers. And then they have some, again, a funky algorithm they put on it. So it is 2.24% increase, raw number. I would imagine it will come out using their methodology at somewhere between 0.75 and 1.5% increase.
Right. Okay. So in tomorrow's headlines, when they report it and they release it, you're going to see them saying Land Registry says house prices have gone up around about 1%, give or take a quarter or 0.5%, right?
Depending on how they treat the data, yes. But they'll definitely be saying, oh, it's gone up, and it's gone up by a percentage.
Now, Alex, why, for those new viewers here who are skeptical and think that we're just house price crash mongers talking the market down.
I don't care what the market does.
I love the idea that anyone thinks that anybody, let alone us, could talk the market down. Tell you what, Alex, when we finish talking it down, should we talk it back up again just for fun?
Well, after we've invested, obviously. I mean, that would be the way forward.
As far as we can, and then we'll put some money in, and then we'll talk it back up again, because that's obviously what causes transaction prices to change.
It's the opposite of what you would normally do. It's a dump and pump.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just, but again, let's be our own devil's advocate. Let's be, let's put ourselves on the other side. Why are we wrong? Why are we wrong? Why might someone say, no, the Land Registry reports house prices are going up? Because they are.
Oh, every leading indicator, and that includes, you've spoken to estate agents, you've spoken to mortgage brokers, even Zoopla are now saying that house prices are going down. There is a general consensus. And now when they say house prices, they're talking about asking prices. And in some respects, they're talking about sale agreed prices.
And Richard said that their index is as close as possible to what they believe are agreed prices happening today. Yeah,
exactly. And he was happy to say, as the director of research at Zoopla, that prices are going down and they expect them to fall further over the year. Now, we disagreed over how much, but there was no expectation that prices were currently rising. It would fly in the face of any logic, given that we now know that mortgage rates, even for a remortgage, have gone up above 6.5% with a 40% deposit. Yeah. There's just no way. I mean, what's funny is your chat earlier, which I'm sure a lot of the viewers here watched with your mortgage brokers. They were talking about a new mortgage, which was, as I said, 6.52%. with a loan to value of 60%. That thing that we recorded, the Welcome to 2025,
yeah,
the couple that I imagined in there in September of 22, they had started with a fixed 2-year in 21 of 2.25%.
Yes.
And they then had a remortgage at 6.4%. And everyone said, no, it's impossible. It's impossible. Well, we're now at 6.52.
I've got the video up here, actually. I'm going to put a link to it for anyone that hasn't seen it. I copy this link and put it in the live chat. Right, guys, if you haven't seen this video, it's quite a short one. There's the link in the live chat now. And it's Alex wrote this imaginary scenario of a couple buying in 2021 with a 2.25% mortgage And what did you say it was going to be when they had to remortgage?
6.4.
6.4. Well, fuck me if it isn't 6.5% today for Halifax customers to remortgage with 40%. Like, yeah,
Well, the impact.
You're surprisingly prescient.
Well, the impact for these guys, and I bear in mind, it was a very specific circumstance because I was trying to draw a point. They had bought a flat in London and had a £600,000 mortgage. Now, there aren't that many people in that situation, but for them, that was £17,000 a year increase in mortgage payments.
£17,000 a year
Increase in mortgage payments.
Okay.
Which is what they stopped spending in the economy, which is what led to businesses going bust, which is what led to the recession.
Yeah. So the message is that we are foaming house price crashmongers who just try and talk the market down, but actually land registry says the price is going up, right? No, that's not the message. The message is it's so important to understand. As long as you understand timing, you can get your head around what's happening, right? Tomorrow on July the 5th, the land registry report, we expect house prices to rise 1% ish.
Yeah.
Month on month. They are reporting deals that were being agreed back in about January time, which also chimes with what Halifax was saying back then as well. It has no correlation with what prices are doing today at the coalface. And just in the last 2 months, since May, look at what's happened to interest rates and mortgage rates, and continuing even today to go up. Do we have any questions? Now, by the way, I had 5 people looking at this spreadsheet earlier while we were talking at it. There are people actually using the link below to have a look at the data.
You
which is
sad, sad people.
No.
You need more wine, is what you need.
Yes, and thank you very much to the guys who've put. So, voiceover guy has chucked £5 in.
Yeah, I'm just seeing things come through. Eddie, everyone, thank you very much.
And Lomax Digital $5 as well. Thank you very much, and whatever you may have gotten, buy me a coffee as well. So thank you guys. That's hugely appreciated. Well,
yeah,
actually, no. Well, I've got to give it all to Alex.
Hey, hang on a second. You never give it all to Alex.
No, well, I have to tonight because I said I would.
Oh, blimey! I'm liking this.
Yeah. Now, I just, yeah. So, anyone got any questions about these? Are there any? I know you're there. I know you're there. Right. I'm just going to stop sharing this because I just want to really get up close to the camera. I know that I've got my detractors, my haters, my out there going, oh, he's doing it again. He's dogging the market down again. Now, I've got 2 questions for you. Why are you watching my stuff if you think it's all rubbish and it triggers you? Just don't watch it, right? And number 2, and that second question, if you disagree, please explain in the comments right now. In fact, if anyone wants to, anyone watching right now, I'm going to do something really risky here. Anybody who wants to join this live stream with me and Alex right now to challenge us because you disagree the house prices are going to fall, make yourself known in the live stream, and I will put the link that you can click to come and join us on camera right now.
Charlie, can I just say that in Polish for you? Tazniawaga kwiwamaga. It's one of the few phrases I know, but that's how you start a blood feud in Poland.
Okay, was this a blood feud? Is that what I was asking you to do?
Yeah, you wanted a duel.
We got a question here. Swanee345 on YouTube says, do you see any risk to lenders as a result of under predicting the rate rises of the last couple of years and any further knock-on effects to consumers?
No, not in this country. It's my big concern and has been. I mean, Charlie and I discussed this last year, quite early last year. The 30-year mortgages in the States that are fixed currently at 2.5%. Yeah, they're going to have a big impact on those ma and pa banks. And you haven't heard the last of American small banks failing and being gobbled up by the G-SIBs. In this country, because the vast majority of people only fix for 2 or 5 years, it's not so much of an issue because they'll just renegotiate the rate. Will it have a knock-on effect like a car insurance where, if lots of people drive badly, your insurance goes up even if you are a good driver? It could do. They might want to try and get back any losses by increasing rates, but I have no knowledge or insight into that market to know whether that will happen or not.
Right. I wanted to just put this on the screen for you because it also makes me ask Stig's voice has the calming, reassuring tone of a benevolent headmaster whom is correct but fair. And that phrase, correct but fair, reminds me of our headmaster.
Duncan Fowler-Watt.
Duncan Fowler-Watt, when we were young boys at a prep school. And I just can't remember. I got beaten. I got
slippered. It was.
We both got slippered, didn't we? Yeah.
Well, let's face it. I mean, much as I may have the voice of a benevolent headmaster, I had never met one, and I met quite a few, having to move schools a number of times, who wasn't willing to beat me. So, you know.
They were trying to make us into conformists, Alex. They were trying to make us toe the party line and just, do what you be a company man.
I think, I got to be honest, I think Oliver Bull at rugby school was actually quite happy when I stood up and laughed.
Well, happy that he got an excuse to beat you?
No, when I laughed the fact that he had beaten me.
Oh, yeah, guys, we're old enough. We're from an era when beating children in school was legal.
And to be fair, we beat each other quite regularly as well.
Yeah, that still happens. I think people beating each other up, kids beating each other up. But for fully grown adults to be beating small children, it was I'm glad it doesn't happen anymore.
I was much happier with that than with weeks and weeks of detentions. Much better to get the pain over and done with soon.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I've got to just put the charger on my battery because the camera's going to die otherwise. There we go. So yes, now sorry guys, Alex and I reminiscing about our I'm not going to go there. Kinky school teachers who liked beating small boys, but I thought the other topic would be fun to just discuss quickly. Two things. Number one, is Rishi Sunak going to survive as as prime minister until the next election? Or in fact, are they going to keep him there, throw him under the bus and blame the loss on him? And what do we think about Rachel Reeves, the Labour shadow chancellor, saying Labour will protect all mortgage holders, including buy-to-let landlords?
Oh, Charlie,
with that one.
You've just made me reach for a plastic bucket twice, and I've only had 2 glasses of wine. I mean, you mentioned Reeves and Sunak, the garden gnome, in one sentence. It was all wrong. Rachel Reeves is obviously the most misguided person on earth if she thinks that supporting buy-to-let landlords is not going to end with, French-style rioting in the streets.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put that on screen at all. That was the wrong one. I was trying to put something else and it moved up and it clicked on the wrong one.
Oh, Charlie, you're arousing strong emotions in your audience.
Right. Okay. So here's my take on Rishi Sunak. He reminds me of the real goodies at school who were just teacher's pet and always came first in all the exams and did everything right and everything he was expected to do. And everyone loves them and just like fast-tracked promotion for being the good boy that does everything right. And he suddenly found himself out of his depth because he's never, to my knowledge, based on what I know about him, which isn't a huge amount, he's never experienced any real adversity and real challenge. Life's been very easy for him so far. Yep. All the way from, quite clear for those videos when he was a teenager.
Yeah.
And you never know what to believe the reports. The reports that he was actually complaining that he's not getting credit for taking difficult decisions. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is true, oh dear, you can't take that job and then whine when you don't get credit.
No.
And so if he starts to, if I'm right about him, people with the characteristics that I just described tend to fold quite quickly when the pressure gets too much. I don't know if he will or not. I mean, he's quite a tough character. Like, he stands up quite well to cross-examination, that kind of stuff. But whether he's actually got the chops to see this through, I don't know. So who knows? If he doesn't see it going his way, is he going to resign? Or are the Tories going to go, actually, let's get rid of him and get someone else in, and we could still be in with a shot of winning the next election? Or are the Tories going, we don't want to win the next election because it's going to be an absolute clusterfuck and we don't want to be in power. We want to just we want to give that plate of dog poo to Labour.
But the right time to have done that would have been the moment that Boris left. That would have been the time to call an election, hand it to Mr. Starmer and go, yay, see how you like those apples.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And now we've had Liz Truss and now we've had Rishi, 2 unelected prime ministers.
Yeah.
And Rishi, I agree with you entirely. He is that schoolboy who has a superficial, an accurate, but a superficial understanding of everything. But he doesn't realize what happens when he pulls one lever, how it's going to affect everything else in society.
Yeah.
In the same way that Hunt is cut from exactly the same cloth. You know, he as a chancellor, I mean, the least creative, and what we need at the moment is strength of character and somebody who is creative to try and generate some growth in this country, because it's about to go very badly wrong. And those two, they're just following that same old playbook, tax and cut, tax and cut.
Yeah. And the other thing is that you can also see that Rishi Sunak doesn't know that he's out of touch, and he is genuinely out of touch. He thinks he's intelligent enough not to be out of touch.
Hold your nerve, Charlie. Hold your nerve.
Unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. Hey guys, you can use your nerve to pay off your credit card bills and mortgage payments. Apparently. Yeah, I mean, I've grown up, as Alex has, surrounded by some very successful, very, very wealthy, ultra wealthy people. And in that, as with any cohort of people, you get a spectrum of amazingly kind, wonderful, generous, empathetic people who are down to earth, and despite their wealth, they're very down to earth, and the others who are absolutely not, like just completely, and don't even want to know about what life is like on the street for real people, and they make no secret of it. Like, I don't care, it's not my problem. But he's one who's been blinded by reports of his own intelligence, I think. And is going to meet a sticky end one way or the other, metaphorically speaking. And he's not who we need right now. He's not who we need. Very, very. Anyway, and then now Rachel Reeves, Labour. I mean, I was genuinely gobsmacked to see that quote from her. Labour will basically protect. I mean, what she's implying is they're going to be somehow financially supported by the government.
Well, I mean, let's face it, Labour haven't been Labour since 97. If you went back years, I would have been very against old Labour and unions and so on and so forth. That was the way I was brought up. However, I'm even more against the fact that there is no real opposition who actually hold the values which do protect the working class. Because to say that you're going to bail out buy-to-let landlords and suggest that in some way that is going to help the populace of the UK long term, unbelievable. I mean, from a Labour government or a proposed Labour government, I mean, a ridiculous statement.
Yeah. So, given the sort of meager last turkey in the shop offerings that we've got in terms of politicians to vote for, what's the best for people who just want a stable home life, people who want security of a home and to feel safe that they can afford to stay in their home, whether they're buying or whether they own or rent it? What is the best outcome from this election that we're coming up to, do you think?
Charlie, I'm not usually lost for words, but I seriously don't have an opinion on this because I don't see a good outcome either way. I can't see okay, let me put it another way. Starmer seems absolutely desperate trying to lose this election, which seems unlosable for Labour given what's happened over the last few years. But I can't see anyone in the Conservative government that people would willingly vote for. So what do you do? I mean, there is no personality that I have seen on either side that I would look at and go, that's who we should have running this country.
Because do you know what? What competent leader would want the job? I mean, someone of the character and leadership and quality and vision to actually take that job. You literally, it's just like going into a snake pit.
Yeah.
From day one, you're fighting. Everyone's fighting against everything you're trying to do, which is why only ruthless bastards actually get shit done.
Yes.
Yeah, but what you say is very, very sad. By the way, a lot of people have joined us since we started, and I would just like to repeat what I said at the beginning for them, which is chaps and chapesses and ladies and gentlemen and anything else you identify as. Could you please, if you've ever felt like you wanted to buy Alex a drink, now's your opportunity. That link is also in the description below. buymeacoffee.com/AlexGround. I think that's an uppercase O, but the link is below anyway. Alex does this for nothing. He volunteers his time and his deep wisdom and his AI, his actual intelligence. And I don't pay him anything for it. I'm a pain in his ass. And so all and any contributions or tips or drinks or anything, very, very gratefully received.
And I have seen a whole bunch coming through. So thank you very much again, everyone.
That's so cool. Thank you guys. That's really, really cool. Now we had someone just asking, now I've lost it. Someone said, what would you do if you were Chancellor, basically?
Oh, I'm going to have the piss taken out of me again, because actually, forget who last said this, if you don't like them, but the investment zone idea in the short term with tax breaks to bring external money into the country and make sure that there is employment, I can't see better ways. Now, the other thing, and it's something people have talked about with horror on their faces of, oh my god, we import so much, we couldn't possibly let the pound devalue because our imports will become so expensive. Well, that's true. All of that is true, but we spend a lot of money in this country on food. I mean, a lot of money. And we buy a lot of it from places like South Africa and Peru and New Zealand and Australia. I would absolutely champion a Buy British initiative in this country. And we've done it before, partly with disastrous effects long term, but good effects short term. You put tariffs on food imports that we have in the UK. So you don't stop people buying foods that you can't get in the UK. But if it is made in the UK, so if you're buying beef, for instance, you will naturally have to buy British beef first because it will be cheaper than, let's say, Argentinian or Australian beef. Yeah. We've got to, and people will say, no, we're a globalist society. Well, you're being nationalistic now. This is jingoism. Well, right now, in the same way that if you want to give charity, you better look after your own house first. We are screwed as a country. We have to admit that. We are not a global player, first world. We're gold-plated and can just go about our business quite happily. We need to look at how we can support our own businesses inside this country. And buying British food is one of those ways.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the trouble is, the government's job is not to make Britain global. It's the government's job is to, number one, keep its citizens safe. That's job number one, right? Safe and secure. Number two, create opportunity for people of the UK. That's its job.
Yep.
Safety and opportunity. And those two things. I think those two things they cover everything that the government should be doing. Is everyone safe? Does everyone have an opportunity to go out and
exactly
become a productive contributor to society? That's what needs to happen. Where it makes sense and is beneficial for it. But what we've done is we've just, I can see it now. I didn't see it at the time looking back, but we just sold off the family silver decades ago.
Yes. Well, and let's not mention Gordon Brown selling off the family gold at the lowest price we've seen in decades. But anyway, there's two here I just want to address. Little Gomez, that is absolutely fine. Spiritually buying a drink is perfect. I hope everything is okay for you. And Alexandra, no, you're right. British beef at the moment is more expensive. That's why I would put tariffs on imports so that foreign beef would be more expensive than British. And yes, it will mean that you have to cut down on consumption. But hey, that helps inflation. Nothing is going to be pretty. There are no easy options. There is no, oh, we can carry on with the same living standard or standard of living, and everything will be fine. I'm afraid there will be time where we're going to have to bite the bullet, and it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, there is lots of cash sloshing around.
So I just want to read this out because this will go on to audio podcast. Super chat. Thank you very much, Nicola Vigian. That's another $5 I have to pay Stig. What are your thoughts about Anthony Codling saying that there's a lot of cash sloshing about which will prevent approximately 30% nominal falls?
There is a lot of cash sloshing around. I did a graph recently that shows the increase in savings, the balloon of savings over COVID. I don't know if you've got access to that, Charlie, from Twitter.
Yes, I can find that. Yeah.
However, if you look at our current spend rate, that money would run out in November of next year. But our current spend rate isn't going to be the rate over the next few months, because our spend rate is going to increase because we have to service all the debt, and because the rates are going up, our mortgages are going up. So we're going to see that cash that's sloshing around disappear much faster than some people think.
Yeah.
Also, we've got to bear in mind that the people who have all of those savings, unfortunately, tend to be the richer people, not the 25% of households that have less than £100 of savings. So
where's your graph?
It should be on Twitter in my media.
Yeah, which I'm just going through.
It's a straight line graph with a green balloon. It would have been in the last 2 weeks.
Okay. Oh, yes. Got it. Yeah, here it is. One moment. Let's get it up on the screen. There we have it. Is that the one?
Yes. I'm afraid it's another case of the haves and the have-nots. The haves are the ones that were able to do the savings. The have-nots are currently spending more and more on credit cards in order to combat standard of living costs. So, as you can see from this, that green dotted line is how much we saved over COVID, over and above the blue line, which was the linear trend for saving in this country from 2011. You can see it was very, very straight line. Yeah. COVID with furlough, bounce back loans, etc., people not having to go to work, people being unable to spend because they were locked down. You had all of that additional money. Now you can see the extrapolation, which is that it runs out in November 24. However, with the increase in costs for things like mortgages and credit cards, or all of the other things that have increased in cost, my real extrapolation has that money running out in March of next year.
Okay. At which point you think the economy will then, the recession will get worse?
Correct.
For that reason.
Correct.
Yeah. Right. 3-Player Politics has deliberately given money through me, so I have to give it to you just to annoy me. Thanks very much.
Fantastic.
But yes, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. No, only joking. That's great. Right, I've got a couple of the questions that are really good fun ones here. So, are there historical precedents for median and mean sold prices diverging as they are now? And if so, what happened following the divergence? Don't actually know, Barry.
No.
It's an interesting question.
It is. But the problem you've got, Barry, sorry, not the problem you've got, the problem you are trying to foist, very cleverly, by the way, onto Charlie and I, is that the only way to check that is to go back over the land registry data, which is huge. I mean, you're talking back, the last time this happened was 2008 in terms of house price drops. And at that point, transactions were over 100,000 per month. So every month you've got 100,000 transactions, and you would need to track it for 24 months from 07, mid-07 to mid-09 in order to check this. That is a vast amount of data to crunch. I may, if I have time over the next few weeks, go back and have a look, because it's a very interesting question, but I can't promise.
Right. Well, listen, given that his question is about median versus mean, I thought it was a good time to bring up the best agent data that we've got. Okay. So this is best agents, bestagent.news if you want to find this page yourself. This is the best agent all homes index, which is it's work in progress, but it's what you got here is real live data prices. Actually, these are from a couple of weeks ago. Should be updating the next couple of days with up-to-date data. But what's staggering is none of the other indices, none of them. So Rightmove only, the Rightmove index is only asking prices of newly listed properties.
Yep.
Doesn't include the whole of market, doesn't include price reductions. It's not an average of asking prices across the market. Number one. Number two, Zoopla's, as we had Richard explain the night, is a hybrid index that doesn't actually have a price on it, just has a up or down percentage movement, but doesn't put a price on it that I can see. Land Registry is very small in part and so far out of date as to be useless anyway. It just confirms what we think was happening or doesn't think was happening later. This is the only index where several things are true. Number one, it shows you how many homes make up this calculation. So for sale homes, this is 100% of publicly available homes listed for sale. Homes, not garages, not land, not chip shops, homes. And that is the median price and that is the average price. That's a big difference between the median and the average on the asking price of for sale properties, right? Now, I put it to you, dear audience, that the asking price of unsold property is completely irrelevant and meaningless and has nothing to do with anything. And it's just full of all the ridiculously overpriced properties that sit in the market for sometimes literally years, not selling.
But it does show how hopeful people are. Look at the difference between those two.
Yeah, so the median and the average, I mean, that's a staggering. That's 150,000. I mean, that's a massive difference. Now, the next line down, sale agreed data, I think is slightly less meaningless. Because these are the published asking prices of properties showing as under offer or sold subject to contract. To be very clear, this is not the prices that are agreed. We don't know what that is because those aren't published at the time they go under offer. So when an estate agent has a property that sells, it marks it under offer. But if it goes for 5 or 6 or 8% under asking, they don't update the asking price. They leave it up there. Okay. So right now, what we know is that actually the prices being agreed, all agents are admitting this, are well below asking price on average. I mean, Zoopla said 42% of people are accepting more than 5% below asking price to sell. Okay. But that's the median and the average prices of properties that are showing as sold. Now, to me, that's the closest indication available anywhere to what's happening. This is England, by the way. This is not the whole of the UK. This is just England, okay? But 165,000 homes, which is 20 times the size of the Land Registry sample, just saying, with a median published asking price of £285,000 and an average published asking price of £359,000. Now, what does that say to you, Alex? The difference between the median and the average on the sale agreed stuff, the sold stuff.
Well, simply that there are more higher price properties coming to market. Sorry, I was just distracted by ML Guy. ML Guy, median and mean in a normal distribution are equal. I mean, actually, mean, median, and mode are all equal in a normal distribution.
By which you mean a symmetrical distribution.
Correct.
Yeah.
This 285 to 359 says you've got a whole bunch of properties over on the right-hand side of that distribution at a very high price. And we've seen that in Kensington. There are quite a few properties going in Kensington in excess of 12 million, up to 32 million pounds.
Yeah.
Whereas there are very few properties that are being sold for under £100,000.
Yeah.
So if you've got your median price at 285 and the normal distribution would be between 100 and what's 185, 470, let's say.
Yeah.
You've still got all those multi-million pound properties sitting out there to the right, affecting your average.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys, I mean, it's probably more coincidence than anything else, but the median prices are closer to the actual published Land Registry stuff than any other index at the moment. I think I'm right in saying. Anyway, enough of that. Right? Let's stop doing this. We had a couple other questions. I thought this was a particularly important question. Jimmy Davis says, could Charlie take Stig in a street fight?
Not if I fell on you.
Let me explain to you what that would look like. Have you seen the film Bridget Jones's Diary, where Hugh Grant and Colin Firth come out?
The slapping.
Yeah. Pretty much probably be some biting and some scratching and shouting, "You bitch!" That's how that would go. Probably.
That would be so fun. We should try that.
This is a really a good question. Ranveer Singh says, beyond the forthcoming price correction, do you expect house prices to grow long term as they have done in the last 20 years? My answer to that is a straight no.
Yeah, I'm with you.
For the simple reason that I don't. I'll say no, and what would change my mind? No, because I cannot, and I'm looking. I cannot see any sustainable long-term source of economic growth for this country at the moment.
Yeah.
If we suddenly turned a corner and became a world leader in a great technology that would create massive employment here, I would change that. If we suddenly decided to go into or like the nuclear energy plants being installed will create some jobs, and that I don't know what the potential of that is to employ people.
Oh,
but
very high.
for
They
example,
manufacture components.
One of the things that I would do, I would look very carefully. And this is just a bloke down the pub talking bollocks, right? But what do you know what I'd do if I was Prime Minister? I would provide. One of the things that's absolutely fucking us hardest as a country right now is energy prices, right? It's literally holding us to ransom. And solar energy on roofs of houses wherever possible would create massive employment if you were to do a huge ramped up massive installation of solar panels on roofs around the country. Okay, you create massive employment, you create reduced bills, you create a return on the investment, and you create independence from international energy prices. That's one of the things that I would do, because it's just a win-win-win. You know, I provide government. So in other words, I wouldn't give it away. I wouldn't give it away to homeowners. I would provide government funding for the installation, and then it was paid back out of the savings of your energy bill. I mean, there are schemes like this already, but they're in a very, very small way. Okay, that's one of the things that I would do, which would provide sustained employment, and eventually you want to start upgrading solar panels as well as the technology gets better, and that's real work that can't be done by AI. Those are real jobs, hands-on jobs that provide work for people and create value, etc. That's just one thing that I would do to try and create employment. And of course, building houses. I've mentioned this before. A big house building exercise. So the government would build and own its own housing stock that it would rent out to create competition with the private sector and balance prices out. But based on everything else, long term, and in fact, Richard Donnell from Zoopla agreed to this, didn't he? No significant house price growth anywhere in the foreseeable future.
Correct. Well, actually, he said in the next 5 years. I think both you and I are a little more sanguine about that. It could be well over 5 years.
Yeah. Here's one for you, Alex. Jake Abed says, what's both your opinion on banks tightening their belts in regard to accounts? I've had to unlock my account twice in recent weeks. Never happened before.
I think that's storm in a teacup time. When it comes to accounts, there's lots of laws around money laundering and so on and so forth, which you'll occasionally fall foul of, where they will hold you up with security checks and all that sort of good stuff. But what we're seeing with the celebrities not being allowed, in inverted commas, to have a bank account, that's just storm in a teacup. What is going to be much more worrying for more people is the fact that banks are not going to be lending. I mean, for instance, your mortgage advisors earlier, Lewis, was still talking about stress testing. Well, stress testing was abolished officially back in August of last year.
It's recommended now, isn't it? Just recommended.
Correct. And guess what? They're doing it. So what we're saying is this is not like 2000 to 2007, where they would lend to anyone. Now, as we've said for months now, they will only lend to people who have the best credit history. And effectively, it's the old sort of adage of, well, if you don't need the money, the bank will lend it to you.
Yeah. When you need it, they don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
um,
Thank you, Andrew.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Very cool. I've got a few comments I want to respond to. I'm just tagging them so I can go through them. Right. So this is a good question. Jimmy Davis. Thank you, Jimmy. You're a good question asker. Is it possible you and Stig are underestimating the power of the bank of mum and dad? You go first,
Alex. I don't think so. But please, big caveats on that. So it was one of the things that I've been having conversations on Twitter about today, that the raising of interest rates really isn't stopping boomer spending particularly, because they're not affected negatively by a raise in interest rates. Their houses are paid off. They have savings. Their pensions are on the triple lock, or they're on defined benefit pensions. And all in all, they are not helping the situation of inflation. Yeah. But I don't believe that that's malice. I think that is purely a lack of understanding that them splurging on big holidays and designer shoes at the moment is hurting their children and grandchildren. And if they knew that, I think they would curb their spending. One of the ways they are hurting their children and grandchildren without knowing it is that they are paying their mortgages for them. Not just a one-off payment of paying, a deposit or helping them with a deposit, but actually they think they're being brilliant because they're paying that mortgage and keeping their family, as everyone would. Let's face it, if you thought that your children were going to lose their home, with their spouses and your grandchildren, of course you'd want to help. The problem is, by doing that, by facilitating that, what's happening is, they are contributing to inflation. And it's a really difficult call that has to be made. I don't think we're underestimating Bank of Mum and Dad. I think it's huge. But at some point, the boomers are going to have to continue to pay for their own lifestyle unless they want to sell their houses. And they don't want to sell their houses because they'd like to pass it on to their children. And they realize that if house prices are dropping, that's why so many big houses have been sold in the last 6 months. Because as we go forwards, they're worried they're going to lose money on them and therefore not be able to provide for their kids, which is why they're releasing equity. It's a tough equation, but it won't stop house prices falling.
No, I'm agreeing. No need to spend more time on that because I completely agree with you. I also think that it's being eaten away by inflation and also being eaten away by old age care costs.
Yeah.
There's lots of great questions and comments I want to rush through. And this reminds me, so Change is Coming says, my guess is agents/sellers are getting desperate to sell before major reductions, as auctions generally guarantee sale will go through if bids received due to high. Now, I got a comment from someone yesterday saying he is a property buyer in Wales, and he was talking directly to an auction house who said that the auction house is expecting 30% price falls. They've got more and more stuff coming on to auction that's not even selling at auction, just not selling at all. I think that behind the scenes, and I'll know more when the next round of best agent asking price data comes out, asking prices are dropping like a stone in some areas, but not all. And Dead Simple Ali asks, when will the slide really happen? I think the slide is beginning now. We won't see it. We won't see the evidence of it for a few months. But it's starting now, and the steepest part of the slide will be in the next 12 months, reported in about 18 months. We'll see it. But 18 months from now, you'll have seen the steep part of the slide.
I think we will see it the moment we get the July figures out. So in August, you'll start to see that slide starting in July. We've always said second half of 23, and I believe we're right, Charlie.
Yeah. Keith Morrison says, have you seen press predictions of energy price rises this winter? Could we see inflation creep up again in that case?
Yes.
Yes, I've seen those predictions on it, and it won't. Wouldn't surprise me, and it won't help inflation. And Eddie Ward, this is an interesting comment. We are being looted. Look at what happened with Thames Water. Now, this raises a question that I wanted to ask you, actually, Alex. How can a business which you can't even call it business. It's a utility.
Hmm.
How can a utility company, which has a guaranteed income,
Yep.
doesn't require any salesmanship, no sales, just guaranteed income. Honestly, how does it end up? Is it 14 billion in debt?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Bankrupt?
it's three things, isn't it?
Who allowed this? I mean, the director of the board, like this to me was, I haven't been paying attention to the bloody Thames Water Board. I haven't really, but I'm sorry, excuse me, what? 14? You've done what?
Yeah, but Charlie, it's the same three things that you can say across all of these different pieces. So the problem with living in the UK, which was a first world economy and one of the first, like we had the first tube system and so on and so forth, is all of our infrastructure is old. Now repairing infrastructure that is in use is difficult. Thames Water loses more fucking water than it actually pumps. I made that up, but it's a lot. And they underestimated how much it would cost to maintain the infrastructure because they were fucking idiots. And that's problem number 2 is management. In the same way that if you go back to them maintaining the infrastructure, the same problem we've got with tubes in London, the same problem that you've got with the electricity grid, the same problem that you've got with nuclear power stations, all of that, same thing. Underestimating how much it costs to maintain old infrastructure and how difficult it is to actually update it when it's being used.
It was entirely predictable.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And yet we've managed to screw it up on every single front in this country. Name me one thing that has been maintained. Is the road network good? Do you feel that driving through London is a pleasure? Perhaps London bridges. Oh, Hammersmith and Wandsworth are out at the moment. So we can't even build a bridge that we can use to go across the Thames. I mean, Jesus Christ, this country, because they've underestimated every time we've had optimists doing the project budgeting and planning.
Mm-hmm.
So then you've got shitty management. And there's no excuse for that, but these companies just been run badly. Then you've got the fact that there is pressure from all of the citizens to keep prices low. If Thames Water had been able to charge double what it does, could they have afforded to upgrade the infrastructure? Yeah, probably. Now, this is an unpopular opinion, but in much the same way as all those people who lost a lot of money in the financial crash of 2008, having borrowed much more than they could ever pay back, I'm sorry, you can blame the banks, you can blame the bankers, you can blame the people in America for creating those products. But at the end of the day, you signed your name at the bottom of it and you took the money. In the same way, if you refused, oh, I don't want higher water bills, that's unfair, we're going to protest that. Well, if they doesn't give them enough money to actually maintain the network, I'm sorry, but you have to take some responsibility for that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was a fucking depressing note to end on.
Sorry about that, mate.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's just...
We have got ourselves into this situation. I mean, don't get me wrong, led by terrible politicians and horrendous bloody CEOs and profiteering bastards in banks. But at the end of the day, we, the public, have said, oh, hang on a second, I want 3 for 2. I want a 25% discount on that. And fuck me, what do you mean I have to pay that much? Whoa, we're going to boycott that. What do you want me to say?
I know. So where are we all moving to then?
Somewhere that is brand new, somewhere that can benefit from all of the new technologies, but hasn't yet got any of them.
I have a very close friend who was here in this room the night that my channel passed 1,000 subscribers live on air. She celebrated, who is actually involved in the planning, branding, marketing of a brand new country built out of reclaimed land, out of the sea, and built state-of-the-art technology. It's quite phenomenal. It's in the Middle East. It's literally a completely new country, like brand new. Everything from the ground.
Where is
the ground is being built? Huh?
Where?
Neom, it's called.
Yeah, but no, where geographically?
UAE, nearby there. It's
Oh, okay. So in the same way that they reclaimed or created the palms, this is just a bigger version of the Palm Dubai.
Yeah, it's a country. It's a whole country. It's quite extraordinary, actually. Look it up. Neom, Neom.
Cool.
I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying it's a mind-blowing thing. They have thrown hundreds of billions at it, and now they're marketing it. They're marketing it to businesses.
Okay.
It is, yeah. Okay. Someone said it's not a country; it's a planned city in Saudi. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a separate country, but okay.
Well, hang on. Is Neom not? It's not this long wall type structure.
No,
that
no,
Saudis will-
no, it's not. That might be in it, but no, Neom is a city. I
Okay.
thought it was a country. Okay, could have got that wrong. It is, yeah. Okay, city, not a country. I thought it was a country. I really did.
Grandiose thoughts. A bit like that semi you had earlier. Oh no, that was one of the.
It reminds me of a horrible old expression, which I'm going to regret saying. Thumbing in a softie. Anyway, on that happy note.
You need a damn good slip ring for that.
Stop teasing me. Right. Brilliant. Guys, thank you so much. What a fun. I do like these ones where it's just shooting the breeze and having fun. I was in Singapore recently. Whoever asked that? I was in Singapore very recently for a few days. Fascinating place. Weird place. Fascinating place. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. I've got to wrap it up now. It's way past Diggy's bedtime.
It is.
And mine. Thank you all. And thank you very much, all of you, for your contributions to Alex's coffee fund.
Yes, a massive, massive thank you. It will, of course, go on. It will go on a product that has tannins. It may not be tea.
No. But yeah, in all seriousness, you're very kind. You're very generous. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you all, guys. If you don't already, follow me on Twitter. That's where I do my most of my posting and talking and chatting on Twitter. Otherwise, my website, mhwc.co.uk. If you want help with your move, go and see what you can find there. It lists some of the playlists for buyers and for sellers and that kind of stuff. But otherwise, thank you all. There's so many of you now. I can't believe there's still nearly 700 of you there. So there's lots of people who've been with us for a long time. There's a lot of new people as well. Welcome to the new people. Have a great night. We'll see you soon. Sleep well.
Night.
Safe and sound. Love and luck to everybody. See you on the next one. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.